And we are free and clear of the advertising. And now let's shit on insurance companies. You know what I hate about those fucking cunts is all they are about is collecting money. They are not about paying shit. It's fucking unreal. That's another group of people that just what they get away with. What they fucking get away with is just off the charts. Nobody gives them any shit. None whatsoever. Where the fuck is all my reads here? All right, I said I was going to talk about sports. So I have a buddy of mine. I love the guy. He's a big time Yankee fan. And I did a gig with him recently, and he was talking about, he goes, Yankees. He goes, we're the best, because they got 27 championships. Nobody in any other sport has like that many championships. And, I break his balls. And I'm just like, I mean, you guys were the best for the first half of the last century. You kind of slowed down, wouldn't you say? I mean, like, it's just like, I have this thing with like sports that there's in every sport, including basketball with the Celtics, so I'll shit on the Celtics here, all right? Where it's like we win like 11 championships in 13 years. We win 9 in a row, all right? But you look at the league back then, that's when like 5'11" white guys were all over the place. Wilt Chamberlain wasn't allowed to dunk. You know what I mean? Wilt scores 100 points in a game. No one's ever going to fucking do that. Like, there's always like these ridiculous fucking records. And I just always feel like, it's like, I get it. You won the championship back then, but it's just like, there's so many different fucking variables. To sit there and look at those championships back then. And I'm not saying that winning a championship wasn't winning a championship. I would never say that. But like the sheer amount. Like, take like the Montreal Canadiens that like, they're counting Stanley Cups back when the Stanley Cup was like the size of a mug of beer and you won it when you were playing fucking pond hockey. I'm just saying, you know what I mean? Like, if you look at baseball, like how much the game has changed. First of all, to win a World Series, to win the pennant back then, all right? It's like all you had to do was have the best record in the American League or the National League. And that was winning the pennant. Whoever had the best record, that was it. And you went directly to the World Series. So if you had the best record in the regular season, all you then had to do was win 4 games. Nowadays, there's 30 fucking teams. There's all this nutrition and all of these fucking stats that all of these fucking nerds stick into computers to try to fuck you out of getting a hit. And then you make the playoffs. As a wild card team, you now have to win, 16 games? And play a possible 28 fucking playoff games to do it. It's just not the same thing. Of course, nobody's ever going to go on a run like that. Same thing with basketball. Nobody's ever going to win 9 in a row. Although the fucking 90s Bulls probably could have won 5 or 6. And to me, that would have been better than winning 9 in the 60s. To win 7. If you won 6 or 7 in the 90s, to me, that's more impressive than winning 9 in a row in the inception of a league. So my thing is I kind of categorize shit where it's you look at I always love using this example. Like the last person to hit 400 for the season was Ted Williams. Okay. And he did that in the 1940s. I want to say 1946. I can't remember when. Nobody has ever done it again. Okay. It's coming up on 80 years. Okay. More than 3/4 of a century. Nobody has ever done it again. However, if you go the other way and look at it, somebody was hitting 400 every other year. And if you go far enough back, you'd have a couple of guys would do it in a year. And if you go all the way back to the 1800s, they had years where 3 guys would hit 400. All right? So all of those fucking records from way back then, all of these home runs, RBIs, Hank Greenberg had 190 fucking home runs. Nobody's ever going to break that record. Guys in the 90s, in the 2000s, literally had to do fucking steroids and go up there like a goddamn X-Man to break records done by that were set by people who had off-season jobs. He plays right field for the St. Louis Browns, and during the off-season, he works construction. He hit 400, threw a no-hitter, and had 190 RBI. Back then, you would fucking literally, if there was a double-header, it was yeah, Bill, you're pitching. It's the first game, right? No, the whole fucking, all 18 innings. I can't do that. What's the idea? So you're pitching, see? So, I mean, I can only take that shit like you gotta knock it down a little bit. Like the way I look at it, there's the inception of the league / only white people were allowed to play championships. I mean, don't you think it's kind of weird that the last time somebody hit 400, it was still an all-white league? All right? And then all of a sudden, when the Josh Gibsons and Pedro Martinez, CC Sabathias, and all this great talent from other races is allowed to play, nobody ever does it again, despite the fact that you had guys like Mickey Mantle, Willie Mays, Pete Rose, Tony Gwynn, Wade Boggs, all of these master fucking hitters, George Brett. Nobody ever did it again. I don't know. I just feel, I don't know. There's just something about that. So for me, I kind of look at it in my lifetime. So this is the argument I present to my buddy who's a Yankee fan. I just look at it like this. Like, in my lifetime, if I look at, if you're going to say we're the best, we have the most championships, there's sort of like, it's like in tennis, the pre-open era, the post-open era. I have like the pre, it was white guys only, and then the post, now everybody can play, and now we really can see what you're going to do. Okay? And I'm not saying that, like, obviously the Yankees would still have the most, like, World Series and all of that type of shit. And I'm not saying that all of those great Yankees couldn't play in any era. But I am saying, though, they went up against a lot of white pitchers who wouldn't even be in the fucking league because the Pedros of that era weren't allowed to play. But I guess there was less teams. It was an all fucking white league. Give me a fucking break. Look at ESPN. What are you seeing? You see a white guy behind the sports desk? Other than that, it's pretty fucking slim pickings. Sorry. I had to get that out. So, as far as the way I look at it, in my lifetime, and I hate to fucking say this, the most successful franchise in all four sports in my lifetime is the Los Angeles Lakers. They've won 11 titles. All right? And the Montreal Canadiens have won, I think, 10 titles in my lifetime. And then the Boston Celtics have won 8. And the Yankees have won 7. So, there's an argument to be made, like they've been. The thing about the Yankees that I think makes them the best of all time is they've only gone 2 decades where they didn't win a championship over the course of 100 years. That's fucking unreal. That really is unreal. So I'm not saying that they're not the greatest. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it's kind of like the Celtics. It's like we have 17 titles, so do the Lakers, but we won like 9 of those, 11 of those during the 23 Skidoo years. And then it's also, and I just feel, but then I also feel like the NBA is like rigged in a way where now it's like pile on fucking teams. So then it comes down to weather and level of pussy in your city, I feel. Like, I mean, who's kidding who? Is like, is Cleveland ever going to have a pile on fucking team? And there's a bunch of dumb people be like, they had LeBron. LeBron was their guy. That was their fucking guy. So I don't give a fuck that he came back from Miami. That was their guy. It's like nobody is like the Indiana Pacers are never going to have like a fucking, like LeBron's never going to go to Indiana and then try to get a bunch of people to come out to fucking, South Bend, Indiana, whatever the fuck they play, right? Indianapolis. It's just not going to happen. So I find it to be, it's just sort of a, I don't know, it's a weird thing. Whatever. Or maybe it was just my Red Sox were getting their fucking asses kicked, and my buddy who's a Yankee fan was talking shit, and I just needed to come up with an angle. I just, out of curiosity, okay? Because then you look at, like what do you guys think about that? Because if you look at, like, football, what I don't understand, and I've said this a zillion times, so I'll blow through this, is how they don't count NFL titles. They just count everything after the merger with the AFL. But there's been plenty of leagues that have merged. Like the fucking NHL has merged like 2 or 3 times with other leagues. Well, they had the expansion 6. I guess that was an expansion. And then they had, what was it, the IHL, where they brought in like the Indianapolis Racers that became the fucking Edmonton Oilers. And they still count all those Stanley Cups, all the way back in the day. But for some reason, like the Green Bay Packers won like 11 NFL titles, and that all just got thrown out. I think if you count NFL titles, then the most successful franchises of all time would be, I think, definitely the Green Bay Packers, and then I think it's the Giants, because the Giants very quietly won in both eras. They just had a brutal from once they lost Sam Huff and Frank Gifford and all that. Oh, they were also kind of the Buffalo Bills of the 1950s, where they went to the title game 3 or 4 times in 4 or 5 years and lost every time. And then they just sucked in the 60s and 70s, and then fucking a man named Lawrence Taylor showed up, who to this day, I don't think anybody ever looked better in a fucking football uniform than that guy. He just looked like if you drew a football player. Totally changed the position. Did I ever see him live? No, I never did. Fuck. I look back now and I think, why didn't I just get in my fucking car and just drive down, why didn't I drive out to the Odd in Buffalo to see a Sabres game? Or go down and go to a Whalers game, or drive down to fucking the Meadowlands and go see the Giants with fucking Lawrence Taylor and Harry Carson. Why didn't I fucking do that? You know why? Because there was no GPS back then, all right? And it was very intimidating back then to drive that fucking far. I don't know where the fuck you had to go to the gas station and get the really big map. Comedians just do bits about that, how you could never fucking fold it up again and you were just completely fucked and you had to squint and point to the road. It was intimidating, that's why. There, I should have gone to the Spectrum. I could have seen Dr. J down there, or at least scalped a ticket. All those years when the Celtics were great in the 80s, I only went to one game, and that was I scalped tickets to go see them play the Detroit Pistons, the bad boys. And, of course, fucking Isaiah Thomas wasn't playing. But I saw the rest of those fucking assholes. All right. Anyways, that's the podcast here. I mean, let me know what you think. I mean, I guess for sports history, you gotta count that shit. I actually thought this is one of the thoughts I had after my smoke alarm woke me up. Was, I was just thinking about NFL titles and that type of shit. And you look at the original Buffalo Bills as far as going to the Super Bowl and not winning was the Minnesota Vikings. And it's just funny to me that no one ever examines that and thinks why are they so snake bitten? That year they were 15-1 and they couldn't fucking lose, and they just had Randy Moss and fucking was it Randall Cunningham, and they just were fucking electrifying to watch, and they lost to the goddamn Dirty Birds, the Atlanta Falcons, and they just fucking snake bit. Why is it? I have a theory as to why they're cursed. The Montreal Canadiens are cursed because they booed Patrick Waugh. They booed him out of their city, and he went on to win 2 cups with the Colorado Avalanche, formerly the Quebec Nordiques, as we all know, right? And they invited him back years later because they kind of know. Those Frenchies up there, they kind of know that they fucked up. It's like Ryman the Ancient Mariner, but with Patrick Waugh. I literally can't even remember the fucking point I was trying to make. Oh, the Minnesota Vikings. So a lot of people don't know this, but the Minnesota Vikings were part of the original AFL. They were an original AFL team. They were down with the AFL. And when the AFL came out, the NFL laughed at the AFL, saying it's an inferior league and all that shit. And they did 2 things to fuck with the AFL. The richest owner was Lamar Lundy, and he owned a team called the Dallas Texans. They had red and white uniforms, all red with the white, outline of the Texas on the side of their helmet. So what they did to fuck with them was they were like, all right, this is the rich. As they said publicly, we're not worried about this league. They did 2 things to fuck with them before they even started. That's what Dallas Cowboys came about, because they're like, all right, we'll put an NFL franchise in the same city that the richest owner has one, so we'll fuck with half of his gate to hopefully make him go under, and he has the most money, and then everybody else will get disgruntled and leave. And then the other thing they did was they took one franchise. They went to the Minnesota Vikings. For whatever reason, Minnesota, they went to them and they said, hey, do you want to just join the NFL? And Minnesota turned their fucking backs on the AFL and sold out and joined the NFL. Those turncoat motherfuckers, and they have been paying for it ever since. I actually believe that Al Davis probably put a fucking hex on him, and they never made things right with Al. And unfortunately, Al is no longer with us, because Al Davis, when the AFL was voting on whether or not to merge with the NFL, because they were seriously hardcore fucking with the NFL, they took a vote, and I don't know how many teams there were. Say there was 10 teams in the league at that point. They agreed to join the NFL on a 9-1 vote. There was only one guy that said went fucking Tony Montana. He said, fuck the NFL. I'll bury those cockroaches. There was only one owner that said, fuck them, we're not joining. We're putting you out of business. And that was Al Davis. So if he had that type of fucking blood in him, which you know he did, any fucking, older guy that still has a fucking diamond bracelet, you never and wears sunglasses, you don't ever fuck with an old guy that has a diamond bracelet and fucking sunglasses. That guy will carry a grudge until he gets you back. And I'm telling you, I think Al Davis put a hex on the fucking Minnesota Vikings. I think it's the curse of Al Davis. Because I can only imagine what he said. Those motherfuckers. He probably, like, if somewhere out there, the original owners of the Minnesota Vikings has the voicemail that Al Davis left them. You fucking ballless pieces of shit. You said you were all about starting this league and taking the fucking NFL down, and they batted their fucking eyes at you. And what did you do? You folded like a fucking lawn chair. I don't know why. I don't know what he said, but I bet he was like, fuck those motherfuckers. I bet he enjoyed every time they lost the Super Bowl. Wait a minute. The fucking Raiders beat him in Super Bowl 11. Holy shit! And Sammy White went over the middle and he almost took his fucking head off. Oh, God, he must have enjoyed that. There's got to be, somebody must have written something about that. All right. I'm out of time here. That's it. I will read your questions on Thursday because there's a bunch of prog rock shit bands that people were going to be suggesting to me. That is it. I'm just fucking with you guys like Yankees fans and everything, I obviously know you guys, are the greatest franchise of all time. But, like, I'm just saying, because I threw the Celtics in there too. You got to admit, if you won, a dozen championships when it was just a bunch of white guys, don't you think it really would have been more like 8, 7, 6? All right, that's it. All right, go fuck yourselves. I'll check in on you on Thursday.